Thank you for tuning in to the Patricia Show. My name is Patricia. Please press like, subscribe, and share. So, I've been going over the last several weeks, interpreting for you the things that are in the lost gospel. You should really familiarize yourself with them. If you don't do it now, that's okay because maybe that means you're not ready. But when you are ready, you have the information here, and then you could go and look it up yourself and read over for yourself Jesus' teachings and what he taught. One thing we all should agree on, regardless of what they told us was truth or not, if there were old texts, or old teachings that was found, and they allege that they came from Jesus, we should at least want to read it. Even if it's different from what we taught, we would at least want to read it so that we can hear Jesus' words himself. Now, if those words are aligned with what they teach in the traditional Bible, then we know that they've been teaching us the truth. But if they're not aligned, what was being taught in the original Bible, somebody's lying. Somebody's lying. And every last one of these gospels are aligned. They're teaching the same thing. All of it is aligned. One thing that Jesus taught throughout all of these gospels, Jesus rejected religious control. Jesus consistently opposed systems that replaced awakening with authority. From the Gospel of Mary, do not lie down any rules beyond what I appointed you. Meaning, Jesus did not come to establish institutions, hierarchies, or fear-based religions. He taught freedom through awareness. It was one unified teaching. Across all of the hidden gospels, Jesus taught one message. You are a divine being of light who has forgotten your origins. Awakening through self-knowledge, love, and inner transformation restore you to truth. It is said that when we first come, in our physical bodies, that our memory, well, it's said that it's like a veil that comes down. And we don't remember the past lives that we led, or we don't remember who we are. We don't remember anything about stuff like that. Now, the reason we don't remember our past lives is said so that we could focus on this life. Why would we be thinking about a life we had 200 years ago? Thinking about that life. We need to focus on this one. And so that's why the veil was pulled down, so that we can give all our attention to this life. Now, I ask, couldn't we have pulled that veil down but still kept some remembrance of who we are? I don't know. Clearly we couldn't. I guess that God would have made us that way. So clearly we couldn't. But it's really funny because when I started on the path of remembering, my grandfather had passed away in October of 1978. And by February of 1979, I was on this spiritual journey because I wanted to make, I didn't understand about dying. So I wanted to get because we were Muslims when my mother was Muslim, my father was Christian. But Muslim taught when you dead and gone. You just in the ground. Your spirit is just roaming, I guess, because you just dead. Nothing. You would never. You just down there in the ground. And I just didn't believe that. So I began to search. I didn't believe my grandfather was down, just down in the ground. Where does your spirit go? I used to say your spirit has to go somewhere, but they would say, and the Muslims know your spirit is just there. And I would say you can't confine a spirit to a ground. It just didn't make sense to me. So I began to search and teach and ask God to please reveal this truth to me. And that's when I started, God was started leading and guiding me and teaching me the truth. And then it's like I was taught from within, and then I know when it was time for me to turn within. You know what I mean? So, but I was getting this teaching. So now, when I first started getting the teaching, some of the stuff it was almost like I knew it, but something was reminding me. It just blended into my spirit good. It's like, okay, I knew that. You know what I mean? I took that. I didn't have a hard time understanding it. It was clear to me. But then some of the stuff, it seemed a little harder to me. So what I thought was like, oh, maybe this is stuff that I remember. It's just bringing back the memory. And maybe this is stuff that I really didn't fully understand. And that's why I had a hard time with that. I remember this lady, I think her name was Betty Broderick. I can't think of her name, but she wrote the book Embraced by the Light. And she was telling how she had a near-death experience. When I read that book, it's like I cried through the entire book because something in my spirit knew that what she was saying was true. It's like I had experienced some of the things that she was saying, the hall of knowledge. It's like, oh, yes, that's a big library room. You know what I mean? It's like I knew these things, and I knew that when you pass and everything go to the rhythm of God. I mean, it was like so familiar to me. It was just very familiar. So have you ever heard them tell a story about near-death experience, about anything spiritual, and it just feels familiar to you, like that's true? And then some things you might not have any knowledge of it because maybe you still don't remember that. So some things it's like I don't, even when I was just learning for the first time, it's like I didn't have any knowledge of that. Or maybe I had the knowledge, but maybe in my other lives I didn't fully, understand it. I don't know. It's just some things I just got immediately I understood, and some things it took a little while for me to grasp. And then some things I just got before I was even taught it. I just knew like some things were not true, for instance, and some things were. There was just things that I was beginning to question. And this is going through my entire life because like I told you, like last year, I started questioning if Jesus was really crucified, or was that something that happened symbolically? And my spirit was more leading me, this was symbolic. It just wasn't really happen. You know what I mean? It didn't really happen. But yet, I do believe that when Jesus died, I do believe he resurrected in the third day. But let me tell you what the resurrection now. What I don't believe he died on crucified. I don't believe that. I definitely do not believe Jesus was crucified. But I do believe that when Jesus died, right? I do believe that his spirit, came back in 3 days and was teaching the disciples. Because let me tell you something, that is true. That you don't have to be Jesus for that to happen. When my mother died, my mother came back to me shortly after she died and started telling me about my sisters. Like I needed to watch them. They were really, she just went through each one of their lives, what they were doing. One of them was sitting in the dark. She was about to have a nervous breakdown. She needed to have a counselor. And I hadn't talked to my sisters in a while, but when I called them, every single thing that my mother had told me, it was like a vision I had of my mother. They were going through everything that my mother had said. And so that would be the same. My mother's spirit returned to me to tell me these things. So that would be the same as Jesus. It's nothing, hokey pokey about that. Well, to me, it's not, because I'm clairvoyant and clairaudient, and so that's just natural for me to have spirits and communicate with them. So even when my grandfather died, he used to come in my kitchen. When I was in the kitchen cooking, I could smell my grandfather's perfume. I would have to turn around and look, because he was like, I could feel him like staring at me. So, and then it's like, I really needed finances. So it's like my grandfather was giving me dreams that I would, because I would knew he would be around me. And then one time I heard him just say, Pat, Pat. He called my name 3 times. And when we looked up Pat in the dream book, because the dream book, you look it up and then it gives you 3 numbers, and then you play that number in the lottery. When I went to look up Pat, whatever it played for, I think it was 508, it came out in the lottery the next day. So my grandmother said, oh, Daddy is trying to bless you, because I would have these dreams and I know my grandfather was there. So when you pass, you may have a loved one come back and give you messages or say things. So yes, I could see Jesus coming back after he had passed in his spiritual body to teach the disciples who teach. Let me tell you something. When you ascend into your spirit body, you are surrounded with so much light. When you become your mighty I am presence, or emerge with that mighty I am presence, your light is just, you're surrounded with this light, right? So Jesus has this light that is around him. If you call him to come into your presence, and if Jesus come into your presence, whatever negativity that you have going on, that light intensifies it. If you are filled with love and you called on Jesus or any master, ascended master, they would come and talk to you and maybe have a conversation with you, whatever the case might be. Come and give you a message if you ask them. They would do that. But because of this light it intensifies your darkness, it can't come and do that. So you have these people out here. Back a while ago, they used to say, oh, I'm channeling Saint Germain or channeling Jesus or whatever. I knew they were lying. Because remember, it's going to intensify whatever the negativity you have around you, so they're not going to come. But let's say you're full of light and love, they would probably come. So what would be the difference in them coming to you if you call upon them? And then if they come to you and you just a brother in Christ, he gonna come to his disciples who he was here talking to and training and teaching. So what I guess I'm trying to say is that that's not a big deal for Jesus to have came back to talk to them. I believe he did that. I believe he came back and talked to them and gave them a message after he had passed on. But I don't believe about the crucifixion. I think all of that is symbolic. So when Jesus passed on, maybe 3 days later, he did come back. I don't know if it was 3 days. It could have been the next day. But I just believe that he did come back and probably continued his teaching. But the traditional church want to pretend that, I don't even know why they do that on Easter. They're so focused on his death. I went to a Catholic church because they have a big spread on Easter where they reenact him walking wherever he was walking, carrying this cross. They just reenact that whole scene. And I remember the first time I went, my spirit said to me, why are they doing this? Why are they focusing on Jesus dying?